Part 1. The first time the storm arrived, it didn't come with thunder. It came quietly, like an unpaid bill left on the table, like an email that started with, "We regret to inform you." His name was Daniel, and he was ordinary in the most familiar way. Ambitious, hopeful, and quietly terrified of falling behind. At 32, he believed life was supposed to make sense by now. Instead, it felt like standing in the middle of an ocean with no land in sight. Every morning, Daniel woke up with his chest tight, his thoughts racing faster than his breath. He had lost his job 6 months ago, burned through his savings, and watched friends move forward while he stayed stuck. Each rejection felt personal. Each day without progress added weight to his shoulders. The storm inside him grew louder: anger at himself, fear of the future, impatience with time itself. "Why is nothing happening?" he whispered one night, staring at the ceiling. Time felt cruel, like an enemy deliberately slowing him down while everyone else ran ahead. He tried forcing progress, applying to dozens of jobs a day, chasing every opportunity, saying yes to things he didn't believe in. The harder he pushed, the more exhausted he became. The storm responded with stronger winds. One afternoon, after another rejection call, Daniel snapped. He threw his phone across the room, hands shaking. "I'm doing everything right," he said aloud, voice breaking. "So why is this still happening?" There was no answer. Just silence. Heavy, uncomfortable silence. That silence followed him for days. He noticed how tense he'd become, how quickly frustration took control. Even small things, a delayed email, a slow response, felt unbearable. He was reacting to everything like a boat without an anchor, tossed around by waves he couldn't control. Then, one evening during a long walk meant to burn off anger, rain began to fall. First he cursed it. But soon he stopped under a streetlight, soaked and tired, and laughed quietly to himself. "Of course," he said. "Even the sky is against me." But standing there, something shifted. The rain didn't rush. It didn't apologize. Just fell, steady, patient, unstoppable. And for the first time in months, Daniel didn't run from the storm. He stood still inside it. Word count 500. The next morning, Daniel did something unfamiliar. He slowed down. Instead of immediately checking emails or job boards, he made coffee and sat by the window. The world outside moved at its own pace. Cars passing, people walking, clouds drifting without urgency. Nothing seemed to be in a hurry, yet everything continued forward. That moment planted a quiet question in his mind. What if rushing isn't helping? He began to notice how much energy he wasted fighting time, complaining about it, fearing it, demanding answers from it. Every failure felt urgent, every delay unbearable. But when he paused, even briefly, the storm inside him softened. Daniel didn't quit trying. He simply changed how he tried. Instead of applying everywhere, he focused on improving one skill each day. Instead of panicking about the future, he worked on the present. It felt uncomfortable at first, like walking against the wind instead of being pushed by it. Friends noticed the change. "You seem calmer," one of them said during a phone call. Daniel smiled faintly. Calm wasn't something he felt fully, but it was something he was learning to choose. There were still bad days. Days when doubt crept back in, whispering that patience was just another excuse for failure. On those days, the storm returned. Heavy clouds of comparison and regret. But now, Daniel didn't immediately react. He let the feelings pass through him, like waves hitting shore and retreating again. One night, while journaling, he wrote something that surprised him. "Time hasn't abandoned me. I've been fighting it." The realization didn't solve his problems overnight, but it changed how he carried them. He started seeing time not as a ticking bomb, but as a teacher, slow, strict, but fair. Every quiet day was shaping him, even when it didn't feel productive. Weeks turned into months. Progress was subtle, almost invisible. But consistency had a rhythm of its own. Like calm water wearing down stone, small efforts began to add up. Daniel felt stronger, not because life got easier, but because he stopped letting the storm decide his direction. He still didn't know where he'd end up. But for the first time, he trusted that waiting wasn't wasted time. It was preparation. Part 2. The storm tested him again when opportunity finally appeared. A small company offered Daniel a short-term contract. Less money, uncertain future. Old fear rushed back. What if this goes nowhere? His mind screamed. The urge to panic, to demand more, to rush the outcome returned with force. But this time he paused. He remembered the rain under the streetlight. He remembered how time had been shaping him quietly. Instead of reacting, he asked questions. He listened. He accepted the offer, not as a desperate escape, but as a step forward. The work was challenging. Some days were frustrating, others discouraging. But Daniel showed up consistently. He learned, improved, stayed calm under pressure. When mistakes happened, he didn't spiral. He corrected them. When progress was slow, he stayed patient. His manager noticed. "You don't panic like most people," she said once. Daniel smiled. "I used to," he replied. Inside, the storm still existed. But now he was no longer lost in it. He had learned to be the calm. Time passed, and with it came trust, responsibility, and eventually stability. Nothing dramatic. No overnight success. Just steady growth, earned, not rushed. One evening, months later, Daniel walked home as rain began to fall again. This time he didn't curse it. He looked up, letting the drops hit his face, and felt a deep sense of gratitude. The storm had never been there to destroy him. It had been there to teach him how to stand. He realized then that patience wasn't passive. It was active strength. And time wasn't something to outrun. It was something to walk with. Part 3. Years later, Daniel would look back on that season as the most difficult and the most important period of his life. Not because of what he achieved, but because of who he became. The storm had shaped him, but calm had defined him. Life never stopped throwing challenges. But now, when pressure rose and uncertainty returned, Daniel didn't lose himself. He remembered that storms pass, but the lessons they leave behind stay. Time had not been his enemy. It had been his greatest ally. Part 4. Years later, Daniel would look back on that season as the most difficult and the most important period of his life. Not because of what he achieved, but because of who he became. The storm had shaped him, but calm had defined him. Life never stopped throwing challenges. But now, when pressure rose and uncertainty returned, Daniel didn't lose himself. He remembered that storms pass, but the lessons they leave behind stay. Time had not been his enemy. It had been his greatest ally. Part 5. And if you're standing in the middle of your own storm right now, feeling rushed, lost, or afraid, remember this. You don't need to control the storm. You only need to control your calm. Stay patient. Stay consistent. Let time teach you. Because those who learn to be calm in the storm always rise stronger. If this story spoke to you, remember this. Nothing in your life is late. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are becoming. Storms don't come to break you. They come to reveal the strength you didn't know you had. Stay patient when progress feels slow. Stay calm when the world demands urgency. Time is still working for you, even in silence. If you found value in this story, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe for more meaningful stories like this. Until next time, breathe deep, trust the process, and always choose to be the calm in the storm.